On 9th June 2024, the great tennis player Roger Federer gave a very interesting speech at Dartmouth commencement, and I thought that speech was very thought-provoking. He made a very beautiful parallel between life and tennis and revealed three major aspects of how to look at these parallels. The first one was he mentioned that there is nothing called as effortless achievement. In fact, it is a myth, and beautifully described a distinction between gift and grit. The second point he was mentioning is that failure is very normal. He was essentially taking the tennis points, and he mentioned that it is just only a point. In there, he mentions that he won almost 80% of the matches he played, but he could win only 54% of the points he played, making a very critical point that losing is part of the game, and therefore one should move on and be positive. The third point he was mentioning is that life itself is much, much bigger than the game one plays in a tennis court. It is important to have priorities, for example, family, health, etc. And he beautifully makes a point emphasizing the importance of all these things. Now, I would want to emphasize a very specific aspect of the gift versus grit, which he mentioned, and elaborate a little bit more on what he was talking about. In there, when he was actually making a distinction between grit and griff, he made a beautiful statement. He mentioned that discipline is also talent. I really thought, wow, this is something very important, which I also kind of support that particular statement. He mentions that the definition of talent is very broad. Trusting yourself is a talent. Loving the process itself is talent. Managing life is also an important talent. There are so many important aspects which we do not usually call as talent, but they're equally important. And he makes this particular point very succinctly in his speech. I really thought this is very cool. And also, I further asked the question, can we connect this to science, pursuit of science, learning, etc., etc.? If you look at it, to learn science or mathematics, we need to be very disciplined. We need to put a lot of time and effort in order to learn subjects which are very critical. This is also an important talent, which means that being disciplined, putting time and effort is a talent. Managing time is equally important. Balancing breadth with depth is equally important, and they can also be slated as important talents. Let me give you some examples from history of science. The great Albert Einstein was not rated very highly in his youth. In fact, his school teacher did not think that he's going to make any achievements in his life. But yet we know that Albert Einstein turned out to be one of the greatest scientists ever to live on this earth. So there is a lot of hope in terms of people who generally are rated as not so gifted. They can make profound discoveries and inventions. The second person whom I want to emphasize is S. Chandrasekhar. He was actually a very gifted person. All of them thought that he's going to be a very, very talented person. But what is important is that he also was a very hard-working person. He put lots and lots of effort, so much so that he used to wake up at 4:30 a.m. and start his research. And he was an impeccable person. He did a lot of hard work and had very, very deep interest in science and allied research areas. There are many more people like them. So therefore, there is always an important lesson for us to learn that if you are not really rated as very gifted, don't lose your heart. You will be able to do a lot of interesting work in research. Federer undoubtedly is one of the greatest tennis players, and there's a lot to learn from this particular speech and the life. By the way, I'm going to link the video to that particular speech in the description. Please have a look at it. But there's also an important lesson, and that particular lesson is pertinent to students and researchers. And that important lesson is being disciplined is a big talent. Yes, being disciplined is an extremely big talent. If you can be really disciplined in your work, that is actually one of the major talents you actually can have. And this is something you can cultivate over a period of time. So I hope you like this particular video, which is part of the Science Meets History channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and also comment on this particular video. I'd be very happy to actually interact with you in the comment section, and I'd be very interested to know your feedback on the video too. So until next time, bye-bye and take care.